We're back!
Hey.
How long has it been since the last
Hey,
episode?
don't talk about it. It's been like 4 months.
Oh,
5 months.
I think it's been 5 months. Maybe our last episode was February? No, it's not that far back, is it?
I think it was, to be
No,
honest.
it was probably April something.
I don't know, we could fact check, but I can't be bothered. But this thing has been running for like 2 years now, hasn't it?
The podcast?
Yeah. Do you think so? It's 2 years, or at least
When did we
a year
start?
and a bit.
We started it in 2020. August, I want to say.
So, exactly 2 years. Maybe. If that's correct. If it's not, who knows?
You're right. I think you're right. It's been a long time since we've come back to this. I think we're not going to do a usual podcast where we do a recap because neither of us really remember what's going on in the main campaign. We actually haven't been playing it that much either.
We don't play D&D anymore.
We're in scheduling hell.
Yeah.
We're in the deepest hell. We don't play D&D anymore.
Life just got busy.
We're very busy.
Everybody.
We got very busy for the both of us. You just got a job.
Yeah.
Got a job.
Full-time gang.
Full-time job. I just moved house. I moved at the end of April.
Hey, yo.
And I didn't really have a setup until a couple weeks ago. And we finally had time to get together and bring this back from the dead.
Sit down and just talk about it, huh?
Yeah, just chat.
Hey, I have a question.
What's up?
If you fuck a mermaid
What?
and you have babies with a mermaid, is it going to be 3/4 human and 1/4 fish? And if so, does that just mean like their legs just kind of come in and then their feet is just like a flipper?
But does that mean like is the mermaid even human in the first place?
Well, if I can impregnate a mermaid, I'd say yes. Let's assume you can impregnate
Okay.
a
So
mermaid.
we're assuming that they're 50% human already.
Yeah.
Okay.
And 50% fish.
All right.
Wait, do mermaids lay eggs, and do you just jack off onto the eggs and then they turn into like...
Well, that's the thing. People think the traditional artistic depiction of a mermaid is they just have a fish body, right? There's no really indication if they've got any holes of the sort.
I'm sure fish have holes.
Okay, they might have holes, but they also don't have sex either, like mammals do.
Well, not yet.
You're about to find that hole.
Yeah.
I think the realistic option is that they lay eggs and you somehow jack off on them. So mermans, right?
Mermans?
They would need to like. How would they
Do they have
fertilize
penises?
eggs? Well, no, right? Because they don't.
How do normal fish fertilize eggs? I'm sure fish... Do fish jerk off onto eggs?
I don't think they jerk off.
They just, like,
Because
rub it,
normally
right?
the appendage is there so you can fuck.
Yeah.
And if you don't need to fuck, why would you need the appendage?
So they just...
Do you just have like a gland that just shoots out
secretes.
the sperm?
Do you think that feels good for fish?
No.
Do fish have orgasms?
I don't think
Do
so.
animals have
I think I heard in high school that dolphins
Oh, dolphins are horny.
dolphins are one of the other animals other than humans that have sex for pleasure.
Oh, that's sad.
But otherwise it's just like an instinctual like procreate
Okay.
for the sake of.
Next question. If a centaur and a mermaid got together and did the deed, does the final product have half human, quarter horse, quarter fish? And if so, how would that look?
I think you got to split it up in that. What do you call it? In the what's that guy's name who invented genetics?
Someone invented genetics? Mr.
It was like a monk. It was a monk.
John Genetic.
But like he split it up into quarters, right? And like, let's say for example, so you have the half horse, half man, half fish, half lady, human.
Okay, yeah, sure.
They get together, and it can be a combination, right? So it could be like there's a chance where it's like everything, right? You're like part horse, part fish, part human, all in one, like equally. Then you could have like the fish and the horse part come together, or both the human parts come together.
That's how seahorses are invented.
What?
Look, so you're telling me that if two centaurs fucked, they could just give birth to a human?
I mean, if we're talking purely in that logic, then yes, it's possible. But like, and again, it's assuming that centaurs are even human in the first place, right? Like,
Well,
you're implying that centaurs are already a mixed breed.
Yeah, I'm implying that they can also procreate with mermaids, which is already outside of most fantasy hypotheticals.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's hard. Like, what if centaurs are their own thing? Like, it's not human DNA, and they're 100% centaur.
Oh.
They're 100% centaur. They're not half human, half horse.
So it wasn't someone down the line who fucked a horse and then...
No, they were just always that way.
It depends on the setting, right?
Yeah. But you're thinking that they're half.
Yeah.
There's some
Yeah.
where it's a man and a horse came together, and then we have centaurs, right?
Yeah.
But in that, yeah. Then you'd have the weird, like, horse, fish, man, you know.
Man.
I don't know.
World's greatest creation, man.
Yeah, but the result would always be a mixture. I don't think a centaur and a mermaid would come together and make another mermaid, you know, or another centaur. It wouldn't work like that.
Do you think fantasy naming conventions apply to that? Like, what's like a normal name for a mermaid? Like, if we go by Disney, it's like Ariel. There's like very elvish, right?
Ariel.
Because they're like elves of the sea.
I mean, I think the people who made The Little Mermaid didn't think too hard about mermaid culture.
I'm sure they did.
Like, in like the names and stuff, Ariel's a human name.
Okay, they had Poseidon, which is just a Greek god of water, which is he's not traditionally a mermaid.
What,
man,
do you know
is he?
what? So what's that D&D race? Tridons?
Tritons?
Tritons?
Yeah, Tritons.
What's their naming convention?
I don't know. You think I know that off the top of my head? I haven't played D&D in like 5 months. I'm just talking about fantasy in general, honestly.
When was the last time we played D&D? It was like a month ago.
I think a little bit more than a month
Was
ago.
it main? It was main campaign. Oh, we didn't. I don't think we played in July. I think we played like end of June.
Yes, I believe that is the case. Yeah, I don't know. For me, it's now that I'm working full time, a lot of the stuff I come up with for D&D is based on my daydreaming.
Mm-hmm.
Like ideas that just kind of spontaneously come as I daydream, right?
Yeah.
But these days, 90% of my thoughts are about either work or sleeping or just some other hobby that isn't D&D. So none of those thoughts spring to life, and thus I never really get anything down on paper, and thus there's really no progress on the campaign, which is quite sad. But also, it's not like we're playing.
Yeah, we
much
also
anyway.
don't play either. I think you mentioned something you wanted to talk about, like your actual motivation. So like you said that you can't think of stuff, or the ideas don't come to you as readily anymore. What about your like motivation for D&D? I think a while back you said, "Oh, I think the enthusiasm for playing D&D, referring to like the entire group, has gone down because of how infrequent we play the game." And at first I was like, that just seems like
Project.
Yeah, you're projecting like a worry that you had. But now, after like how sporadic it's been, I'm also sort of feeling like the enthusiasm is waning. As much as I'd love to play D&D, it's just like there's no momentum at all to the campaign. And I think also like we've had some dates where we've had to cancel because some plans have come up, and that also chips away at it as well.
Yeah. I think in regards to it being harder for me to write because sessions are less frequent, I believe that's more because D&D isn't at the forefront of my mind. Therefore, I'm not thinking about it as much. Therefore, not as much as going into campaign prep, right? It's not like we're not playing for a month, therefore I have a month's worth saved up.
Yep.
It doesn't really work like that for me. As far as group enthusiasm goes, I'd probably still agree with my previous conjecture, I guess, that the enthusiasm is waning, and every week that we don't play, or every week that gets cancelled, is just another slowly draining away at everyone's enthusiasm to play again, right?
Yeah, I think it hurts the most when it gets cancelled. That's
Definitely,
when like
for sure.
that's when the biggest blow is.
Yeah, that's for most things. It's like back when we were doing it weekly, it was so easy just to jump right back in. And now that we're doing it so sporadically, we at the start of every session we have to spend time that we usually would just spend playing, recapping, and getting everyone back into the same mind space we were last time, right?
Yeah.
And that goes for everybody, including me, because if you ask me to recall anything about last session, I'd just be like, that was dumpy.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
Yep, that's all I got.
Oh, well, and we fixed the beef between the Harangon and what's his name?
The old mate, Minotaur.
Minotaur?
Yeah, and it's coming back to me now. And Aiden's character, whose name I am... Yuri, yeah. He invented a new spell, but he also got blasted by his high school bully, academy...
What's his name? Corbin. Cockhead Corbin.
Cockhead Corbin. It's... Yeah. Actually, I actually have some thoughts on that, but I don't know if we want to go into... If we're doing a general thing, maybe, I don't know.
Let's go.
Because it's coming back to me as we're talking about it. Cockhead Corbin, right?
Yeah.
This is something I feel like I've always had this fear when it's come to DMing.
Yep.
Where I am incorporating player-based ideas or something that players have a very high expectation of, as in like, oh, there's this character from my backstory who did this and he slaughtered my family. And like, you really wanted that to live up to the player's expectations when you roleplay them and when you introduce them into the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like part of me, at least back in campaign 1, was very, very hesitant. I'd say hesitant to bring them in and sort of showcase them, because I'm afraid that you guys will be like disappointed in how they're actually played or how they are. And
you've
like,
mentioned something like that before. Yeah.
They don't match who you guys had in your minds, right?
Yeah.
I think this time, Cockhead Corbin was definitely one of the ones that I had a few issues with. Like I didn't really want to bring him in so soon, but also if I didn't bring him now, I'd probably also just do that for every other character. I'd just be like, oh, I don't know yet. I still need to like figure him out.
Mm-hmm.
This time was much more off the cuff. I was like, fuck it, here he is.
Yeah.
We'll figure out how he sounds and whatever as we're doing it. All you gotta do is throw in his stupid fucking laugh.
Yep.
And make him like a hot elf man who has got all the bitches and he's just overtly popular and all the ladies are just creaming themselves over this absolute Chad.
He's like
Chad.
He's like an actual popular Steven. You remember Steven from campaign 1?
Steven.
He's the guy who kept challenging Tokul.
Oh shit! Yeah. The Mr. White Knight. Yeah, and it was. I'd say it was a fun interaction.
Yeah.
Aiden's role playing of Yuri at that moment is just great. It's just it's very shenanigan-y, but also there's like genuine seething. At least it seemed genuine seething hatred from Yuri to this antagonistic bully character. And maybe it's just the way they treat each other. That Cockhead Corbin is just always talking down to him. Mm-hmm. He's never seen him as like a real threat. He's just sort of trash that's in his way of becoming the true successor of Yuri's father or whatever. But definitely, I don't regret it at all bringing him in. I don't know if soon is the right word, because it's been, 3-4 sessions?
I definitely get what you meant, where it was like, I don't know when I'm going to bring him in. And especially when we don't play that often. Like, when is the next time we're going to play, you know?
Yeah.
So there's definitely a pressure there to bring all these ideas to the forefront, which could affect pacing. But, you know, we're sitting down to play D&D after however long.
Yeah.
You might as well do it. And in regards to the not being confident about living up to players' expectations, I think that's just a matter of just communicating with the players, like, well, and trying to find an understanding about what this character is, what they envision that character to be. And if they, you know, if they're not fussed about how you want to role play it, then I guess it's fair game to do it however you please.
And I feel like most players would be like, yeah, just roleplay it however you see it.
Yeah.
I feel like actually everyone would be like that, but it's just my own personal fear that it won't live up
Yeah.
to the expectations.
Yeah.
And that's something I was or am slowly getting over. The other thing about that is anyone who's listening can feel free to call me out on this, but I can say with like 85% confidence is that if I brought someone in from someone other than like maybe Aiden or Kevin's backstory, you wouldn't know who it is. That character wouldn't know,
right, from
'cause
their own
They just
backstory?
forget about their own backstory and they wouldn't know.
Right.
And I wouldn't blame them either. Firstly, it's been a long time. And secondly, if you don't expect it coming, obviously, thing. Which is why I try to prepare people. Hey, X character's coming in. Just be ready to interact with them. Like we did the same for General Grimm.
Yep.
General Grimm, which is a strange encounter, I'm not gonna lie. Don't question it. Don't question it. Don't question the validity of that encounter.
Which one? Oh, the one where Krona like gets a hiding. He gets a verbal hiding in General Grimm's office in the hotel, in the tavern.
And he gets grounded. And about to be sent home, and then there's this weird escape plan thing. And people are like carrying pots or something to the tavern, and then they drop the pots because they don't really need to trade them anymore. I didn't really get what's going on with that.
We wanted to sell the pots, if I recall. We wanted to sell them. Oh, the reason why we were moving those giant pots to the tavern is because I think the owner agreed to buy them. The Minotaur agreed to buy them.
Yeah, in exchange for like, hey, I'll try and get your friend out of X.
And also to do the favor, right? That was like on top of the favor. Right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was what that was for.
And then it ended up sort of not mattering because he got broken out anyway, which is all in good fun.
Yeah.
I have a question about the campaign for you. What do you think about Dumpy?
What do you think? Have we spoken about Dumpy on the podcast before?
I believe we talked. Oh, actually, I'm not sure if we actually had a podcast for the session he was being.
We had a lot of sessions
created.
without accompanying podcasts. What do I think of Dumpy? I think he's great.
First of all, what is Dumpy?
What is Dumpy? For the listeners who don't already know. So I believe 2 sessions ago, what did we make Dumpy for?
For a ruse. For the goblin.
Right. Yeah. Okay, we got into a shenanigan. Krona and what's AK's character called again?
Oh fuck! It's been so long.
Krona and
Lucian.
Lucian.
Wait, can we go through all the names real quick?
Okay, so
Krona,
my character is Leto,
Yuri,
Crag,
Krona.
Yep, Krona, and then Lucian, and then Zeke.
Gotcha.
So Lucian and Krona, mostly Lucian, get into this debacle with the Harangon where they make up this story about
crazy.
Oh well, actually, we have to go further back because Crag goes up to the Harangon, and like I don't remember why he went up to her, but it just went terribly, and he just seemed super sus.
The most awkward interaction.
I think he like tried to beg for food or something.
He put like a coin down or something. It was like begging for food, and she would just try to like.
Oh, that was very, very awkward, and then Lucian and Krona tried to amend the situation and make it so much worse. They painted him to be this goblin murderer, racist, among several other things.
What were his charges? Goblin, necrophiliac, necromancer, murderer, rapist. He was a rapist.
That was probably going a bit too far. Racist probably was in there.
I think he was racist.
Racist was probably in there too. A bunch of stuff.
Yes.
I think that, the
worst villain ever.
I think the worst of it was the necromancy, and he was like, "Oh, okay, so we're hunting him down, and we're specially prepared to fight his necromancy. And if we capture him for you, can you stop worrying about the tomb or something?" I forgot how they linked it back to the tomb that
They somehow did with an incredibly disgusting.
Yeah, I think it was like
it was a disadvantage. Charisma check.
and I think it somehow passed,
check.
right? It somehow
And he
passed.
rolled high on both, and it was like, oh fuck, how did this happen? How did this happen?
And so we went into a bit of a planning sesh. Uri wanted to he wanted to put a seal on the stone tomb, and I think he didn't create a new spell, but he modified an existing spell to work on stone.
Yeah.
As opposed to only working on wood.
Yeah.
So he tried that, and I think later made him some like 1,000-hour energy drug thing, and he stayed up for like 5 days making that thing.
Yeah.
And then we had a plan B where we were gonna gonna take down the goblin, so we had to make up like an undead thing to prove that he's a necromancer, and then we put him down, and that would be like, oh, we're safe now, so you can go away from the tomb.
Yeah.
And the construct, I believe, was like, it was only going to be like this thing that did one thing, which was just to move around a little bit and then die. Then when we tell it to. But then it turned into something much more than that. So it started off as, so we're going to use a pig. Me and Zeke, Leto and Zeke found a wild pig out somewhere, and we lured it back. And while we were doing that, Crag and Krona were working on this suit of armor, which they scored like a natural 20 on, so it looked sick. It was a sick suit of armor.
It does look wonderful.
For it to be inhabited in. So then I was like, okay, so I'm going to try and make a labor. And I asked, would Leda know how to make a labor? And you're like, yep, he would probably have some idea and probably would have done it before. And so, okay, so I do the ritual, I made all of this stuff up on the spot as well, if I can recall, where it was just like, you write a contract, saying like what it's supposed to do and like what the conditions are. If it was not to do those things, like it would go to the soul abyss or whatever it was, and then we would it would sign the contract in blood, and you can forcibly do that by just extracting some blood and like flicking it onto the contract, and then I made the pig sneeze out its soul, caught it in a jar somehow, and then put the jar in the suit. And I think the reason why it's called dumb because the suit had ample ass storage. It had an ass compartment. And you're like, so where does the soul reside in the body? And I said, it just finds a place. It finds a place. You don't really choose it for it. And you're like, okay, it goes in the ass. It goes in the ass.
It goes in the ass.
And then the Coroner's like, oh, I want to put some runes on it. So he made some intricate runes on it, and then Lucian's like, oh, I want to charge it with some eldritch energy, and started blasting it with eldritch blasts. And I was like, okay, all that's done. I seal the contract, and it like burns up in my hands, and the soul enters, and I bind it to the contract, and like it swirls around, and then like all this crazy shit. You're describing how like the runes were sort of like contorting and whirlpooling at the center, and becoming all distorted, and like the eldritch energy was also glowing through the runes, and then like the suit itself was like contracting and contorting and moving, and it was like a wild animal writhing in pain or something like that. And at one point it like grabs its head, and it pulls the metal forward into this sort of dog-like snout. Yeah. And it finally stands up. And I'm like, oh, what the fuck happened? This doesn't seem right. And I can't remember what it said first, but we were like, oh no. And in the construct, we need a name for the construct. And we're like, Craig was like, Dumpy. It's called Dumpy. I was like, okay.
There was an edgy like alternative, wasn't there? I forgot what it was, but we end up using it later for something else. Carrion, that's right.
But I think we came up with that name later.
Right, yeah.
It was after, we didn't put that in the contract, but I think because this machine was like, I am like the eater of the dead or something like that.
Devourer of Carrion.
Something super edgy. Yeah, Devourer of Carrion. It had like 3 edgy titles. Yep. And I was like, well, maybe we should call it Carrion. And Lucy says, no, Dumpy's great. And then later on, when we were like testing things out, we took it out into the forest and we were like, okay, let's just kill like a boar or something. And it like leaps from tree to tree, Naruto style, and it has this like massive like spear thing that comes out of it. It's a spear thing that flies out of its hand like a snake bite. And it completely pulverizes several pigs and animals. And then the pig's laying there and it's standing over the top of it, and then it opens its head and this like these black tentacle hand things like grab it and start consuming the pig, and we're like, hey, what the fuck's that? What the fuck's that? And we all got really scared because like, oh, is this like, what did we make? What did we make?
Some Frankenstein shit going on.
And we soon find out that it's like two entities living in one. And I had like, I think I came up with, I had this theory where it was like, what if that pig were like, was already a trapped, it was already a trapped soul, and we just transferred it to like a more capable body. That was a theory. Or maybe the eldritch energy like imbued it, it managed to trap like a second soul. I don't know, there was like some really cool theory crafting there, some really cool theorizing about like why there's two souls in there. So there was Dumpy, which we all think is the pig's soul, and he could talk, giving simple answers and stuff. And then there was Carrion, who didn't talk, who just screeched and ate. And it was always like competing with Dumpy, and Dumpy would always like grab it and stuff it back in itself. And we're like, okay, that the black thing is, we're calling that Carrion because it actually eats Carrion. So we had this cool like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde character now, and everyone loves it. And probably broken, but I don't care. It's fun. It's very fun. And yeah, now we have this like automaton who's like super fucking strong and scary, who's also like got an alter ego that's also very scary as well. So I think Dumpy was very like, making Dumpy and the sessions with Dumpy have been very fun. I really like Dumpy as a character. Dumpy and Carrion, I like them as characters. It's a cool dynamic, something we haven't seen before, which is good.
It's new, yeah.
Yep, a new thing. He's not a deadweight NPC. In fact, he's like, he'll probably carry us.
Yeah.
He'll carry us. We're the dead weight, Yeah, and I think I'm remembering the end of the last session where it was like, I don't know, Leto got told off or something, and he got really sulky, and he's like, okay, Dumpy, come walk. We're walking now. And we go for a walk, and then after me and Dumpy leave, this monk from the Eastern lands, I think, comes and stands, and he's like, he's looking all demonified. He's got like, you had a cool image for it, which I like. I think you described it. You described it well. It's like one of those warrior monks from the Sengoku era with the white sashes and the bladed spears,
and like the gourds.
Yeah, and the gourds and stuff like that. That was really cool. And I think that was the last session we played.
That is definitely the last session we played.
So yeah, Campaign 2 is great. Now that I'm recalling all this stuff, I'm hyped again. I want to play it again.
We're back. We got the hype train again.
Yeah, it just really sucks that we don't get to play it that often.
Yeah, and hopefully, maybe we'll get to play it soon. I'm not sure about the next session.
Yeah, we had a date lined up, but I think that one of our players can't make it, and we want our main campaign to have everyone in it. Yeah. So
we'll see what happens, I guess.
But Aiden's got his one-shot thing.
He's got that lined up for like months already.
Yeah,
he's got that in the fucking.
I feel pretty bad because we've tried to set up dates for that twice, and they've both been cancelled. So, yeah, I'm interested to see where that goes.
Oh, yeah, I'm excited for that for sure.
Yeah.
Weird post-apocalyptic survival horror. Something going on. It's intriguing to say the least. Going back to the campaign, I think the reason Dumpy is such an intriguing character in that he's got a certain risk to him, right?
Yeah.
He's not just this brainless NPC that'll just carry you to the end. He's also got this fucking thing inside of him that has the potential to probably kill everyone and everything.
Yeah.
So it's this time bomb maybe of like what the fuck is gonna happen. There's always a risk involved.
It's like a high risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Type deal.
Yeah, and it's definitely new-ish because I don't think this happened quite often in the first campaign where you guys were exposed to things of a much higher caliber level than you, like already outside of your level range if we're talking metagaming.
Yep.
Like you wouldn't be exposed to a dragon at like level 3 or something like that. I think this is more along those lines where it's already outside of your expertise.
Yeah.
And that if something happens, it happened, and you probably won't have that much power to change anything.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it takes away agency, but it definitely adds an element of...
Well, I think it's the opposite because it's the result of player agency. It was our choice to make that.
To make this thing.
To
so
make
it feels
this,
like
we made it,
yeah.
right? And
okay.
and it feels like we own it. As in we own the idea of making it, right?
Oh, okay.
And I think that's like part of why that's so cool is like, oh, we made this badass scary thing, you know, we're terrified, but we're also like, it's super cool at the same time.
Okay.
And I think, just remembering now, it's like a good hook into like, there's like a part in my backstory about Plato's grandfather, his real grandfather, not Grandpa Dong.
Yeah.
And I think I added that character in like later after I wrote the initial backstory about Leto's grandfather who became sort of an adventurer in his old age, but has basically gone missing, right? He like faked his death.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I gotta go back home and find out more about like why Dumpy is like this. Like, what did I make, right?
Yeah.
And I told Grandpa Dong that, and Grandpa's like, if you go home, you'll get crucified. You can't take this thing home. You're not even allowed back home anyway. And I was like, fuck. So like, who do I talk to? He was like, I know one guy. Your grandfather.
Huh?
And that was really cool.
Yeah, because I think Leto assumes his grandfather was just dead or something, right?
Yeah, I think what far as Leto knows, his grandfather used to be pretty high up in his society, in Sophiso society. He used to be close to the king, used to be the former royal alchemist, super high up, but he got really tired of the politics and all this stuff that came with being so caught up in the bureaucracy that his parents succumbed to, right? And instead of sort of accepting that and just falling deeper into it, you know, becoming like a workaholic almost, he decided that, you know what, I'm going to fake my own death. I'm not going to tell anyone but like my favorite grandchild, who was Leto. So I think they're like kindred spirits, is in that they're both sort of rebellious.
Yeah.
They don't want to follow the social order. And, you know, he would keep in touch. But even then, he would only send a letter every couple of years. There'd be like big letters, but like every 3 years, and he would send it through this plant. The letter would grow on a plant, and they would read it that way. But as far as I know, he hasn't sent a letter in over a decade, so he must, like, Leto just assumes he must have died. So it was a big shock for Leto to find out that he's
still kicking somewhere.
Still alive. And he was also angry that Grandpa Dong knew that he was alive and didn't tell Leto.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really fun way to go around character development. Grandpa is this weird, multifaceted. He's got hands in every single character's backstory. And like, there's a specific reason as to why he's taken you guys, each of you, specifically under his wing.
Mm-hmm.
And that may not just be surface level stuff like, oh, I knew your dad or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. Is that something you thought that was like... So when you first came up with the idea of Grandpa Dong, obviously it was just a driver for the narrative to get everyone together.
Everyone knows this guy, yeah.
Sort of just simple, like, I knew your dad. Yeah. And I thought of you, and I needed a crew to get a crew together.
You gotta get a crew.
So did you, like, the more you thought about it, like, I think there's like there's more
potential here, right? I think the way it goes is that you get the surface level of this character, and if you guys like that character, then we can start delving deeper. Yeah. Otherwise, it just seems like a waste of effort to make this guy that you guys don't care about, right?
Yeah.
So when you guys showed your appreciation for this character, I was like, okay, how far can we go with this character, and
Yeah.
what more can he do for you guys
Mm-hmm.
while staying sort of outside of your narrative way? And it's funny how we kind of shoehorned in he's just fucking people
Yeah.
every time something important happens. It's
Yeah.
just it's in character, but also there's a sense of God, we always use this word so many times. Something of disbelief, suspension of disbelief.
Yeah.
Right? Where you know, like, oh, he's out of it because you don't want this character.
Yeah.
He's more of just this outside
We
narrative.
obviously know why, like your reason, Albert's reason for trying to keep him out.
Yeah.
But it makes sense for the character to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes for me it's like, oh yeah, you know,
Of course, Grandpa.
yeah, of course Grandpa is fucking not here or whatever. But you didn't label Grandpa as being wholly responsible either, right?
Yeah.
He's not a good person or responsible or ever claims he's responsible.
Hell no.
So I guess he gets a pass in terms of like Kevin's opinion of him.
Yeah.
Obviously that pisses the character off. It's like, hey, why are you always fucking
supposed to be my guy, you're supposed to be
help
our
me.
supervisor.
Help me.
And he's just, I think my favorite part about him is that he sort of agrees with you guys on a lot of stuff, but he kind of knows, he's done it before and he knows it's a bad idea. So like when he saw Dumpy, he's like, fuck, that's cool, but it's a terrible fucking idea. Why did you do this?
Oh yeah, when he came up, we were like, oh yeah, there was this second like demon, and you're like, second demon? What the fuck? Oh yeah, we called it Karen. Such a sick name. And you're like, dude, it's a sick name.
Because he is just sort of a child adventurer at heart as well.
Yeah, a child at heart, very adventurous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's the culmination of like the experience from campaign 1. Like, we always struggled to have that glue to tie the party together.
Yeah.
And it's much easier this time because and it's much easier for you because you have actually a direct input into keeping the party cohesion together through Grandpa Dong.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you know you did learn a lot. It just shows you learned a lot from your last campaign. Dumpy is great as well. Another great organic moment to come out of this campaign. With your help to spruce it up, it could have just been like what we planned it to be, which is just a robot to die on command.
Yeah.
And now it's this sick, twisted demon thing.
We don't know where we're gonna go with. It's interesting because I feel like the more you guys get latched onto that idea, the more likely Dumpy plays a bigger role in the overall narrative.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it's like a rule of escalation. There's this thing I heard when it comes to like improvising, that the more you interact with this one thing, there has to be sort of like a degree of escalation, whether it's stakes or they're like you're adding more to the character that you're improvising on and that sort of thing. And if the players enjoy it, you want to sort of explore. You want to see how much value you can get out of that one particular thing before you move on to the next thing.
The question is like, is Dumpy worth like a narrative arc, right?
Yeah.
Like, are we going in the direction where he becomes this somewhat, or he or they or whatever it is, becomes this important character that either, you know, it's like you said, loose this monster onto the world and now do you feel responsible for it? Or is it like some deeper, darker secret behind Carrion? Or is he actually just a good guy and like you just got to help him out of a pinch? Like, who knows, right?
Yeah, well, I think definitely, at least for me, and I can speak with a fairly good, high level of confidence that all the other players want to find out more about Dumpy and want him to be more involved because, you know, we like him so much and we think he's a good characters. Yeah, I think definitely we should definitely see more what we can have, like see where this Dumpy storyline could take us.
Yeah, because I obviously have my own plans.
Yeah.
And where the narrative would have gone if Dumpy didn't exist.
Yeah.
But I'm always happy to veer off in a completely opposite direction if that's what you guys want.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the big differences between campaign 1 and campaign 2 as well. Because campaign 1 I was very set on like this is happening. It's semi-railroad, but it's what I have prepared. Therefore, we should probably do this. And this one's just like, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. let's just improv a bunch of shit and then we can work out things as we go along. It's very more open in that way.
I have some thoughts on like railroading.
Yeah.
I was watching a fair bit of Dimension 20, which is run by Brennan Lee Mulligan. And the thing with that show, it's unlike Critical Role, which is one big long campaign, which has a lot of flexibility to it because it's one long campaign. They come to it every week, same characters, same campaign, and they play that for 3-4 years. Whereas Dimension 20, they play seasons that are about 15 to 20 episodes of 2 hours each. And therefore, the Brennan and the players have to have their character arcs and the story arcs condensed. Like they have to start and resolve in the 20 seasons, right? And they do have sequel seasons, and but the character dilemmas and arcs that are introduced for any particular season is resolved, usually pretty much resolved within that season, right? And he was talking, he I think he guest starred on Critical Role, or guest DM'd and also guest played on Critical Role, again for like a limited like spin-off in like Matt Mercer's Exandria.
That's right, he did a prequel, right?
Yeah.
And it was much more serious.
Yeah, I heard it was, I haven't seen it, but I heard it's very good. And yeah, it was one of 2 like spin-off mini campaigns in that world. I think the other DM was Abria Iyengar. And they had a little DM chat, like the 3 of them, Matt, Brennan, and Abria. And he was saying that the way I have to plan, I have to meticulously plan everything out, right? Because he's got to talk with like his set designer to make like the battle maps, and we usually have a format where it's like roleplay episode, then a combat episode, then a roleplay episode, then a combat episode. He doesn't follow that strictly, but that's usually what his seasons fall into. And the question came up about railroading. Like, if you give the players too much freedom and you only have a limited amount of time, like, there's a very high chance you're not going to finish. You're not going to get to the end of any sort of plot or character arc by the time the ending finishes. So he's like, yeah, I do have to do a fair bit of railroading, but it's not really railroading. I provide barriers, right? And he talks to the players and tries to find out who their character is, and like, I think he tries to like sort out like, okay, where do you want this character to go? What direction do you want it to go? And how do you think they would like get there? And I think he tries to find out every single thing, like every little bit of information about this character, so both him and the player know what this character is about. And basically, through finding out what the character's about, at the same time, you know, the player is like also creating their own boundaries for, you know, knowing what their character is, right? They're not just a blank slate. They're like, you know, they've got like, you know, a backstory. They've got like related NPCs. They've got connections here or there. This is the sort of mind state the character is starting out in, and you sort of have an idea for the arc of that character already before the season already starts. They have
this driving force that Brennan can just use, and he knows that they're going to latch onto.
Right? Yeah. And then he will bring up a lot of opportunities for them to latch onto, and that will drive their arc, right?
Yeah.
And you do that enough times, and eventually the arc will resolve at some point, right? They don't all resolve at the same time. Sometimes they resolve earlier. Some arcs resolve earlier than others, but the point is that they get resolved within the season.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know if it's railroading, but it's like bowling, but with the barriers up, you know.
That's pretty metaphor.
They have a set direction, and they're not like, you know, they can bounce around, but like, you know, they're
still always going that way.
They're going in a certain direction with their character. And I don't know, like, I think that's really good. I think it takes a little bit away from like discovering your character. That does, like, not saying that you can't discover your character, but like, I think sometimes what's fun is like discovering who your character is as you play them, and that. But I guess that's a necessary sacrifice if you're
if you
going.
want to condense
Yeah,
the timeline,
if you want to
right?
condense the timeline and have a more directed path for your character.
Yeah, it's. I guess they just already have these very, very well defined characters, like right as when they start, right? They spend a lot of time just figuring out
Yeah.
this, and they don't really change anything
I think
outside of that.
I
right?
think they do, because there is player agency which changes the story, right? And I would assume that they check in with each other, you know, between sessions and say like, okay, so like this thing happened to your character, which would maybe change the direction they're going to. You happy with like, you know, doing this sort of thing?
Oh yeah.
So I guess there's room to course correct.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of like communicating to make sure that you're both on the same page.
Yeah,
with
I
what
assume
you-
a lot of the campaign happens outside of actually playing it, like just defining characters and which way they're going
Yeah.
and stuff like that, which probably isn't as feasible for something like what we do, right? I mean, it doesn't mean we can't do it, right? Like
Yeah.
catching up with players and seeing how their characters are going and stuff like that. I wouldn't mind that if we did it consistently on a
more
schedule.
regularly. What's
But
a
now
schedule?
it's just something we do for fun now. It's not really a like a weekly thing everyone's set to do.
Yeah.
So no one really wants to put in that much effort to make something most people probably don't have as much enthusiasm for
Yeah.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
And that's the main sticking point. That's the moral of this podcast, baby. No, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to apply any of that to our campaign because every campaign's
Yeah.
different. Ours is especially. I don't know. Maybe we could try like a condensed 10.
Like a
10
season, like a season.
and then people can take over, and that'll help me a lot because now I don't have that much time to constantly have the main campaign going. Maybe, I don't know, perhaps.
Yeah, it would be nice to explore some other ideas. I've had this idea where it's like everyone's in a school. Like it's similar to the L5R
That's
arc,
right.
where like
houses.
you're like everyone's there for a reason. You know, I think it started out in a competition, and then you like went to like the investigator's school, which I think was really fun. And I think like there's potential for like a more Harry Potter / Game of Thrones type mini campaign, right? Which like each season is like a year of like this like
A school life?
school's life. Yeah,
One Harry Potter book.
something like that. I think that'd be cool. Like I think definitely like I want to try like this sort of seasonal content and see how that works out, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we're not playing as much, and the long form campaign suffers for that because it just takes so long for us to get anywhere.
To get back into it
Yeah.
and then continue playing. Yeah.
So maybe something more like rapid fire.
Yeah.
that
That
we
might be
could-
more suited to us these days.
Yeah, and also like something that wouldn't require everyone to play, because it was just like whoever's free or whoever's often free can play in that campaign regularly,
Yeah.
and the people who can't make it as often can just drop in or whatever.
Yeah.
Which is a possible solution to our dilemma, but
Honestly, we should probably just play the main campaign,
Yeah.
even though people are missing.
yeah, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, we should probably do that. So maybe well, we're playing on the 28th, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when that happens, maybe we'll just play main campaign. I'll try and get some stuff written down. These days I've got a little bit more free time now that I'm starting to work from home a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll make some time, write some stuff down, and see where we go.
Okay, that's in 2 weeks, right?
28th. Today's the
28th.
14th, so exactly 2 weeks.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yes, sir. That's quite a lot of time to prepare anyway.
Sounds good. Sounds Gucci.
So you know what? I don't want to talk about D&D anymore. I'm done. I'm done talking about D&D.
What are we going to talk about?
This is a general podcast. We can talk about anything we want.
Oh, we're going back to the general podcast?
Yeah, guess who's graduating in 6 days? Like, officially. I've got, like, handshaking the fucking, the chancellor.
Really?
Of the university.
You didn't already do that?
I took photos and got my plaque and got my, like, literal, like, official thing. But not you walk up with the gown and the cap and you shake the hand. That's in 6 days.
When does that normally happen? That normally starts the beginning of the year, right?
I think they have it after every semester. I think they're like one for each semester, I guess.
But you've been finished.
I've been finished for like a year and a bit more than that.
Really?
I think.
So
COVID.
Oh,
That's why.
yeah. Okay.
And so yeah, they had this massive fucking backlog of graduations.
That's gonna be a big day. Are they gonna try and like get through them all in one day?
I think they've been slowly going through.
Oh, okay.
And so yeah, my turn on 20th.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I got to get a little hat and do a little
Big
do-
day.
do-
Big day.
yeah. Any good news for you coming up? Any cool things?
I'm directing a short film for my uni project.
Ooh.
And I'm a producer on like a bigger film for the same unit. So it's been a little stressful because I've got a lot more responsibility now that I did last year. I think last year I was only a sound designer on a film. So I was just handling the sound and that was all I did. But now I'm the creative vision. I have to talk to all the crew members, make sure like they're all on board and they all know what to do. And as producer, I have to make sure all the forms are like ready. I need to make sure the crew like gets all their checks done and make sure the project is actually running. Right? They're like the project
is that
manager.
the difference between producer and director?
Yeah, well, director is fully in charge of the creative stuff. Like how the movie is going to be made as a creative standpoint. And the producer's job is to make sure that it gets done. They're like the project manager,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so they like in the real world, in bigger actual movie productions, they would talk to investors to get funding, insurance, look for locations. Normally they'd have a team as well. Like you'd have like a location scout and you talk with them, make sure they're scouting locations and, making sure people are fed and, like the catering and all this other stuff outside of like
the
actual making of the film. You're facilitating the film to be made.
Right.
And often you have more than one producer. But it's a hard job, but if you get big in it, you get paid a shit ton.
True.
And sometimes the director is the producer, so they're both. So they're taking on two of the biggest jobs at once. But it's usually, they're probably not the producer by themselves anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I ask what it is you're directing?
I'm directing, so for this smaller project, we got 2 scripts. They're called blank scripts, but there's 2 scripts with like a page and a half of dialogue, right? One's about like 2 characters arguing about an item one of them lost, and another one was about a breakup between a couple, right?
Ooh.
But all we get is the dialogue, right? And it's our job to
Film
like,
it.
yeah. So it's our job to like create the scenario that's happening. What's the context? We can change the dialogue a little bit to fit like the scenario that we're going for. We got to make like the action, like what do the characters do as they're saying this? What's the resolution? That sort of thing. So yeah, it's still a fair bit of work, even though the script, like, the dialogue is just like one small part of like actually making the film. So
It still gives a lot of creative freedom.
yeah, it's a lot of creative freedom. But it'll be a fairly short film because I think it would only be 90 seconds to 2 minutes long. But yeah, I'm directing a crew. You have like a crew. You got like a sound designer, a cinematographer who handles like what appears on screen, editor, producer. You got like a production designer. So like they will like scout locations and also like decide like what the characters would wear and stuff like that. So it's proper like crew production on a small scale.
Yeah. Are the actors? No, I guess actors. Are they the same part of the crew, or are they
No.
actual,
So you
like, students?
yeah, you have to find some actors. You can either go outside or
within the.
Yeah, you can go within the class, and yeah, the teacher was like, if you're okay with acting, you might have some parts in these smaller films, but in those bigger productions, you have to source your actors from outside, make a casting call.
Oh,
stuff
snap.
like that.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
Holy shit. You can't just find the art students.
Oh well, yeah, you can find like
the
you can
other-
find go find the drama
class, whatever
the
they are.
drama class or whoever. But I think you just have to source from outside the unit. That's
Sounds like a lot of networking as well.
Yeah, well, I think they're part of
And networking.
yeah
training.
part of like that industry is just about who you know.
Yeah, that
Or
definitely
with-
seems like a very big part.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, so hoping to see what like after I graduate what I can get into. I'm hoping to become like a camera operator myself. That doesn't sound too fancy, but like you're working under the cinematographer, and I heard you like if you get good enough, you can get paid a shit ton, like 1,000, 2,000 per day
Who doesn't
on
want to
set.
get paid a shit ton? Exactly.
So yeah, I hope it's going well. I'm gonna graduate. I'm gonna finish in 2024. I'm not sure when I'll graduate. First semester 2024, so I still got a bit to go. But yeah, getting through it. You're working at Samsung.
Oh, DDoS. Dox me. And DDoS. He just doxed me. What the fuck?
Yeah, he's. You can find out where he lives now because he's working at a
Yeah.
multi-billion-dollar international company.
Yeah, it works alright. Let's leave it at that. Works alright. I don't want to get into work.
It's busy. It's busy.
Works right. It's busy. Hours are interesting. Whenever I say interesting, I usually mean like shit.
It's bad.
It's bad. Whenever someone says something, I'm like, oh,
Or
interesting.
it's all right, which could go either way.
Yeah,
Like
it's usually not the best sign.
yeah.
So yeah, let's not veer into that. You read any books recently? Or reading anything or consuming any kind of media recently? No?
You know what I'm consuming.
Okay. Oh no. We're not gonna get into K dramas. Any other than K dramas.
There's a show I've been watching.
Oh.
It's called Extraordinary Attorney Woo. You gotta watch it. It's good. I've been trying to get Albert on it, and he's been very apprehensive about it. But it's very good. I've gotten my mom, my sister. I've gotten Matt on it. It's good. I think the first part of the first episode you just sort of got to get through, which is like the first 10 minutes, and then after that, it's great. It's great. That's what I've been watching. In terms of books, I haven't really been reading all that much. I sort of tend to come in waves in books. Like I'll read a lot, then I won't read a lot, then I'll read a lot, then I won't read it all, then I'll read a lot again, stuff like that. What about you?
See, that's the reason I asked the question. Because I don't care about what you have to say.
Oh,
I'm just waiting for you to say it back to me.
Yeah.
I'm baiting. I'm the master.
Okay, what do you want right now?
Huh? Oh, I'm not reading it.
You son of a bitch.
Imagine if I said that. Yeah, I'm not reading anything. That just ended the conversation. No. First of all, you ever listen to audiobooks? You ever tried to listen to audiobooks?
I used to listen to them a lot, but I haven't listened to them for a long time. I had to stop my Audible subscription because I wasn't using it.
And it's expensive.
Oh, it's like wasn't it $15?
Yeah, the $15 is a lot. That's a lot of bucks.
But you get a free Audible. Oh, you're not a free Audible, but you get an Audible
You
every
get a
month.
credit
Yeah,
to
get
buy an audiobook.
Yeah.
Which I guess is okay. But still. Yeah. What do you think of it?
I think it's pretty good. I think there's definitely like some books are like elevated because of the quality of the narrator.
Yeah.
I remember one of my favorite books on audio is Wizard of Earthsea by Ursula K. Le Guin. The narration is that it's great. Another book on audio, it's like quite like a heavy visceral book called I think it's called Black Leopard Red Wolf.
Oh, that's right. You're talking about that.
Yeah, it's like an African fantasy. It's heavy, but the narration is great. The narration is top tier.
Yeah, there's something about a good narrative that makes something so much better.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways, right? Because I was listening to this audiobook because I finished The Martian, and that was narrated by Will Wheaton, which was fucking lit. I've seen the movie, so I kind of knew what was happening.
Yeah.
Turns out the movie misses a bunch of shit and changes a few things too, but still, both great pieces of media. Really like the movie, really like the book. So yeah, I was like, okay, audiobooks are good. Now that I'm driving to work, I have all this time. I don't want to spend listening to music because it feels like a waste of time. So let's listen to a book, right? And so I moved on to this other fantasy book. I forgot what it's called, but it is the worst piece of trash I have ever fucking listened to in my fucking life. I've never tried... I've never had something that makes you want to go to sleep and just makes you want to stop listening. First of all, the book content is just sort of meh.
Like the
and
actual
bad.
book itself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was.
What's it about? What's like a
It's a fantasy comedy, I guess, about like a mercenary and a thief who have to like steal some shit, and they get in deeper than their heads.
Is it Terry Pratchett?
It's not Terry Pratchett.
Oh, okay.
It's not Terry Pratchett. It got well good reviews, but for me it wasn't it, because a lot of the violence seemed kind of gratuitous, and it's a lot of weird early stereotypy sexist type deal.
Yeah.
And the narrator is this really boring British guy who just says everything in like this monotonous accent.
Yeah.
And it's weird for me when they voice women and they don't do a good job at it.
Like you don't really hear the woman, you just hear the guy.
You just hear the guy pretending to be the woman.
Yeah.
And that just takes you out of it so much. And every woman sounds the same as well.
Was he trying too hard to sound like a woman? Like, cause I think a lot of like, there's some guys who like can do it well, and there's some guys who like, they'll just play it straight. Like they won't like try too heavily. Like they'll put on like a voice, right? But they won't like over feminize it, you know.
And that is distracting and takes away.
Yeah,
right?
they just play it fairly straight, and it's like, okay, yeah, it's easy for me to imagine a woman saying this.
This was him trying not hard enough.
Not nearly hard enough.
Not nearly hard enough. It's like he didn't really care.
Okay.
And it's just like, fuck this guy, fuck this book, I hate everything about this.
Yeah.
Because it was in the middle of like some guy who killed a prostitute, and how the woman's like, we need justice for this, and then the sheriff's like, no, because he's a man, and something like this. And I'm like, I don't want to listen, this is garbage. But anyway, I've been listening to another one of Andy Weir's book, who's the guy who wrote The Martian. Project Hail Mary. It's actually really fucking good.
I heard good things about
it.
It
is really, really
What's
fucking
the synopsis?
good. It starts off very mysterious, and I don't want to say anything because it kind of takes away from it.
Oh, okay. So it's like
just a guy that wakes up in this room. He's got amnesia, and there's these fucking robot arms that are like, and he's all plugged into all these different medical apparatuses. He's got needles and everything and stuff like that. And the computer's just asking him these basic math questions, like what's 2 + 2, stuff like that. And it just starts off like that. And there's nothing else outside of that.
And there's like you unraveling a mystery about why he's here and stuff.
And like what's he doing here and stuff like that. It's great. It's really, really fucking good. I recommend it. It definitely doesn't go into that more mystery, dark area you think it would go into. It's a lot of science fiction, but it's really good. I think my favorite part about Andy is he explains everything really well, and everything seems scientifically plausible. Like I
gives the illusion that you could
like this would technically work.
Yeah.
And I think the general consensus is that he's actually right about most of the stuff, that it would theoretically work that way, right? And that's it. Because the worst part about science fiction, right, is if they have this magical like fucking thing that does something that just wouldn't fucking work in real life, or it's just too unbelievable that it takes you out of it. And I guess that's the fiction part, but it's just like, I mean, in the back of your head, you're always like, there's no way that would fucking work in real life. There's no way that would work. There's no way something like that would happen, or like that just seems too convenient to work like that, or something like that. And Andy does like this fucking so good job of writing, and the voice, the narrator. At first I was like, I want to see this voice, and then I kind of got it. I was like, oh, he does a kind of good woman voice.
Yeah.
Oh, he does like a different woman voice with like a different accent.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I was like, oh, wait, his Russian voice is like, it doesn't even sound like him anymore.
Yeah.
And then he's got a German voice, like, oh wow, this guy's good. This guy's good. And he does like the Asian voice. It's kind of stereotypical when they do the voices, because they have to make as much of a distinct difference as they can. But you know,
it's hard to do like a subtle accent.
A good, authentic, subtle accent.
Yeah.
Because most of the time it is very Russian.
Missing all these.
I drink vodka. Wow, you got.
I lost
You
it.
got half a word out.
I immediately thought of Ryan and what Storm would do, where he's like, "Oh, this is peak Ubanian comedy. Look at me, I am an elf." Oh.
Oh shit! For all the shit we talked about Campaign 1, there was.
No, Campaign 1 was good.
It had its rough edges, but.
Yeah, I think it's an uncut gem. And Campaign 2 is more polished.
Yeah, a polished, smaller
Yeah.
gem that's still being mined.
It's still it's peeking out of the mountain. You just gotta get it's tip of the iceberg. But yeah, Campaign 1 was great. God, so fucking long
for all
ago
its
now.
flaws that we keep talking about, I'd say it was a pretty good first campaign.
Yeah. And we got pretty far into it. We got to what? Almost 70 sessions?
69. Exactly.
Well, 69, that's
sessions.
right. 69
What a very memorable number. You know, me and my girlfriend's anniversary is on 420.
Is it?
It is. I didn't realize until she pointed out. I was like, oh, fuck. I didn't mean for it to be like this. Ugh. I don't know. Yeah. Cool. Outside of audiobooks, I've been reading, I just finished, you know Patrick Rothfuss?
Yeah.
He did
Name of the Wind.
Have you read that?
No, I don't want to read it. I don't
want
want to.
Waiting for the third book?
Yeah. And it's never coming out. Just like Winds of Winter is not coming out.
Is that Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, Name of the Wind's fucking, it's good, man.
Yeah, it's very good.
It's really, really slow.
Yeah.
But I don't know what he does to keep you around so long, but it's just enough to keep you around for that long, and he just keeps you interested for the whole length of that book. And I was looking at the potential release dates for book 3, and it's still up in the air, right? Because I think he posted something a while back on like a blog or something, or like maybe an interview
that he's working on it, or
that he's working on it, and that it's just purely just a matter of it's so fucking long that it's taking like a decade to write, right? Because he was comparing the third book apparently. No, was it the second book? I think the second book is longer than the last 2 books of Harry Potter combined.
Wow, really?
Yeah, and the third book is longer than the whole trilogy of Lord of the Rings.
What?
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings isn't even a trilogy.
Huh?
It's one fat book.
Huh? Maybe it was The Hobbit. No, The Hobbit's also one book. What the fuck did he say?
So, I mean, the Lord of the Rings is it's one book.
Yeah.
But it's split up into 3.
It's 3 movies.
It's 3 movies, which I think are also based off of like 3 subtitles within the book, like a part 1, part 2, part 3.
Maybe.
And people, I don't know, maybe I'm getting it wrong, but I feel like it's a misconception that Lord of the Rings is 3 books. It's actually 1 book.
Oh shit! I don't know what he said then, because I remember it was like this mind-blowing thing.
He might have said it's.
Can I check right now?
Yeah, go check.
Okay.
All right, now we're
Should we
checking.
just mute? I don't care. This is one of the fucking general podcasts where like
you know what?
Patrick Rothfuss.
Professionalism out the window.
We don't care about book 3 release interview.
Okay. Open it up. God, my socks stink. I can smell my feet.
You can smell your feet? Why are you putting them in my thing then, huh?
Oh.
Those are my shoes.
Leave something behind. So you can remember me by. What is... How do you say that?
Where is it? I mean, this is great commentary, because it's just us being silent, staring at a fucking screen.
He always has these crazy names, like the main character name is Kvoth.
Is Quoth or something.
Kvoth or something like that.
KV, but apparently it's pronounced like Quoth.
Quoth?
KU, like Quoth or something. I don't know. It's like, well, I guess it is. Lord of the Rings is 3 books.
So to think of any series was wrapped up. Think of Lord of the Rings, which is a pretty solid ending. Was everything wrapped up at the end of the 3rd book? I don't know. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Maybe it is 3 books. But I think originally Tolkien wrote it as 1. But it's just so big that he had to split it up into 3.
What the fuck is this? Oh, man. Look, now we're just staring at things.
Well, I think that's what you read, right?
Yeah.
That's what you read. And I mean, that's basically what it was.
I'll clarify it later. I'll look it up after this and make sure I'm not fucking misquoting something. But I'm pretty sure he said something along those lines. It's like, the 3rd book's already longer than like Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like... It just okay, would you ever read a book in a series that isn't finished?
I have. Game of Thrones.
Would you ever do it again? Consciously?
I think it would depend on how confident the release schedule is.
Oh.
Like if it was Brandon Sanderson, then yeah. I don't really like reading.
He's a machine though.
His work. But yeah, if it was like a series that he's writing, then yeah.
You know it's going to be done.
Because it's coming out.
Yeah.
But if it's like another Game of Thrones, or the name
Patrick
of
Rothfuss.
what are they called? King Killer Chronicles. If it's another one of those, you know, confidence is really low, right? If it's from an author I don't really know, I mean, I guess the investment is pretty low anyway for like a new author that I don't know and they haven't finished a series. Then yeah, I would read the first book anyway. Like I'd have to really like the series to read beyond. Yeah, so it just depends on the confidence of when their next release is.
So are you more inclined to read something by an author you know nothing about?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Of like one book of a series?
Of a series, yeah. Just to try it out. Like, oftentimes I don't get that far. Like, because maybe the book is just not for me.
Good.
Not for me. It often happens for me. Like, it's very hard for me to find a book where it's like literally I can't put this down, page turner, right?
Yeah.
It took me a while to get into the Game of Thrones series. Like I tried to pick that up several times, and then just one day I had a click moment, and it all fell into place, and I was like, oh shit, this is really good.
Gotta consume.
And then I just like I read the whole series in about 4-6 weeks.
Just devoured.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you would start the series, and
it's a lot of investment already to like pick up a new book, like an untested book, that you know nothing about. I think ultimately it's a better way of doing things because you just get so wrapped up in like all the reviews and shit, and I often am susceptible to analysis paralysis.
To that,
and just keep like, you know, and I'm just like, I think I'm too precious with my time. Like, of course you should be precious with your time, but also like being too precious with your time also wastes your time as well. Because you never actually do anything.
Yeah, because you're not actually using it wisely.
So, sometimes I go out there and just get a book, and read it. I normally reading the sample chapters. I usually read my books on my phone, which I know a lot of people don't like to do, but I prefer to do it.
I hate that. Yeah.
It's more convenient than carrying a book around. You can hold it in one hand. You can pick it up anywhere. And yeah, they have sample chapters, which is just a percentage of the book, right? And if I like get to the end of that and want to know more, then okay, I'll pick up the book.
It's a good sign.
Right? Yeah. I judge by the cover a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
You're supposed to.
If it's got a good cover, I'm like, okay, this looks good.
Yeah.
You know, and I'll like flick through. I love browsing Kinokuniya because they've got such a wide selection.
I know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I like went there a couple months ago and just took pictures of all these books that I'll probably never read, but I like they look nice, right? Yeah.
Can I just say this is a bit off topic, but I hate books that have movie adaptation covers.
Yeah.
I refuse to read fucking books like that. I won't pick it up like fucking Twilight or some shit.
Have you seen
like Robert Pattinson? I'm like, I don't want to read this.
The Dune.
Oh, the Dune! Oh god.
The Dune has such great book covers, but the movie promotional covers suck ass. Yeah. Actually, I'll do one better. I hate any book that has like real life photography. If they've got like a real person there, I like yuck.
Real life photography is usually just like smut or like weird.
Yeah, it's usually for like those crappy romance novels, but it's also prevalent in YA. Like YA fantasy and romance, yeah. You have a look in that section, it's there everywhere, and it looks so tacky.
It's like that, or like really amateur like drawings, or really amateur art.
Yeah, I like I don't know, it's sort of like movie posters as well. Like I think movie posters are more tolerable because there's less investment into going to see a movie than a book. But yeah, I like a creative book cover, or a book cover that just looks aesthetically pleasing.
I think the problem with a lot of advertising these days is that I think, you know, if we compare like movie trailers now to movie trailers like 10 years ago, it's so fucking formulaic. Like it's either a fucking cover of like a dramatic cover of like a pop song.
Yep.
That's like with suspense in it. And it's slowed down.
And they've got the epic, like, cinematic drums. And then, like, the gunshot is syncing up with the sound. And
and then there's a quote, and then there's blackness for a bit, and then I hate it. I hate it so much. I hate it.
It's the, I think also, like, Hans Zimmer's score is like you can hear it straight away, and he's so popular and so well known.
I would rather go back to the days where it's the guy like in a world. I'd rather have that.
That's also awful, but
yeah, I'd rather have that. I'm
that.
so sick of this same shit. And then like you see the movie posters, right?
Yeah.
And then you know how people have already pointed out they all use the same fucking color scheme.
Yeah, like
and all the same format of the characters.
Orange and blue.
It's the orange and blue shit.
With the face mosaic shit. Yeah.
Oh, I hate it. I despise movies like that. Like I look at shit like that. I'm like, I don't want to watch your movie anymore. I genuinely feel repulsed, knowingly, because it's just a fucking formula. Because it just feels so robotic. Like a machine has just created this thing, knowing that 95% of the population will enjoy it because the fucking algorithm says so, right?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't feel as authentic as any kind of other movie is, like any other indie movie, I guess, would be.
You gotta go for like some deep cuts every once in a while, because if you always go for the blockbusters, you're just gonna get like you're so sick of it and burnt out.
Have you seen Everything Everywhere All at Once yet?
No, that's the one with Michelle. What's her name? What's her last name? She's a famous stunt woman who worked with like Jackie Chan a lot. But I've heard of that movie, and I heard some good things about it. Okay, we're googling it. We're googling more.
Yep. Michelle Yeoh.
Yeah, that's it. Oh yeah, she's in Crazy Rich Asians.
And this guy, the other actor who plays the husband, is actually short from Indiana Jones, the little Asian kid.
Really?
Yeah, that's him. Yeah.
Huh.
Anyway,
It's
really
good?
so fucking good. I think best movie I've seen this year.
Really?
I don't actually watch that many movies, but this is actually the best movie I've seen this year. And if you watch Doctor Strange afterwards, it'll be like the worst fucking thing you've never seen.
The new Doctor Strange was already pretty bad.
I want to cry.
I think it was a visual spectacle with no substance.
Like the symphony fight with the little notes, that was kind of cool. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Man, I don't even remember that.
Oh, shit.
I just remember hating the character America. I thought
America.
I thought her name was stupid, and I thought like her whole theme was stupid.
I thought her name was Erica for like 90%.
No, it's America.
It's America.
Which is an actual name, but it just feels so... I don't know. America is such... I don't know, it just feels so on the nose for some reason.
And they butchered Elizabeth Olsen's character, fucking
Oh,
Wanda.
what a mess.
Because she had this wonderful arc in WandaVision, right? And it was leading somewhere great, and then he just fucking pounded her like no tomorrow. She turned to it. They destroyed her.
Hey, spoiler, but like, remember when they go to the alternate universe and it's like, oh yeah, this is our version of the Avengers. Illuminati. I'm like, oh my god.
The Illuminati.
I know that's an actual comic thing, but god, it's still terrible.
Yeah, and then they used fucking Xavier again. Came out in the fucking wheelchair.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't want to see this guy anymore.
He's dead.
Yeah, get it. Stop it. And then, you know what the end, the worst fucking part is? You know what the solution to everything at the end was? It's Doctor Strange going up to America being like, you just need to believe in yourself.
You have it. You just need to believe in yourself.
And then she does it and the fucking world saves. Like, fuck you. You're wasting my time. Anyway, fuck Doctor Strange.
I think
watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. Hell, I will watch it with you again.
I think conceptually Doctor Strange, the new Doctor Strange was cool. I always like parallel universe
shit
type stuff, but yeah.
I think it's getting overused these days.
It's well, they got to heighten it somehow. I feel like Thanos should have been the end of like the Avengers, but they got to milk it. They got to keep milking it.
Yeah, I think the general consensus these days is that Marvel's getting pretty mid with all their new shit coming out.
Yeah.
Other than maybe Moon Knight, which I still haven't finished. Pretty mid. Maybe watch that together. God, I can't smell your feet.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'll keep them in here.
No, keep them out of those are mine. No, keep them out of let them air out, and then I don't want sweaty.
They'll air out. They'll air out overnight.
Bro, those are my slippers.
Now they're mine.
Anyway.
Everything, everywhere, all at once. Okay.
Wonderful fucking, especially if you're I know this doesn't really relate to 90% of the people listening to this, but if you're an Asian who was born in like a Western country, you will fucking love this movie.
Okay.
It hits different for like a Australian born Asian.
Is it based in Australia?
No, just like a Western born Asian.
Okay.
It's America. But yeah, it's intense. It made me cry.
Oh wow.
It made me laugh.
Wow.
It's fucking weird at times. It's out there. It's definitely out there, but it's so fucking good.
Okay. I seen like a trailer for it, and it didn't really hook me. But now after the glowing review,
it is.
so
I think something.
I keep looking at fucking ProZZ CD holding that half-eaten burrito there. It's throwing me off.
Stop looking at my YouTube thumbnails. Anyway, where was I? No. Let's go back to fantasy books.
Okay, fantasy rules.
Fantasy books.
Books.
Name of the Wind. Read it.
I don't want to read it.
Because you don't know when the third book's coming out?
Yeah.
Okay. This is a problem, right? I feel there's a good argument against starting a book of a series that isn't finished and you don't know when it's going to finish. The argument is that there's already so much other good shit out there. Why don't you just enjoy that first?
Yeah.
The problem is, I'll probably die. So why don't I just read the good stuff now while I can, in case I die like tomorrow, you know?
That's true.
So we might as well just fucking read it.
But I did it already.
Stop worrying about...
I read the best shit already, and it's never going to finish. It's Game of Thrones.
You don't know that.
That's good.
Would you have rather not read it at all? Ooh.
No, I think because the show ended so poorly that spurred me on. I didn't hate read it, but the spite was like, I'm gonna go to the original source and prove to myself that this is good, you know? Or I made up some bullshit reason.
The series is good, I swear.
Yeah. Because I watched the show first and I couldn't stomach season 7 or 8. Season 6 was already going downhill. So I was like, I heard the book is actually like better, you know, at least like the part after, you know, the part after season 4 was like pretty good.
I've never watched a single episode of Game of Thrones in my life, nor have I read any of the books.
That's probably a good thing. Maybe like if you do want to get in that content,
be in the loop.
Yeah, I'd read the books. Yeah. I'd read the books.
I was very much
and if you really want to watch the show, like watch the first 4 seasons, you know, and just imagine that is happening in the books.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of like milking, fucking like popular things for all they're worth, has there ever been a time where they've like remade a movie and it's actually been genuinely good? Can you think of anything? I can't.
Good question.
Like Coming to America 2 or whatever it is, or what the fuck's the movie called? It's Coming to America, right?
Did they remake that?
They made a second one, like recently, like last year.
Oh.
It didn't do very well. They made Matrix again. That didn't do very well.
Yeah, I think Keanu Reeves is an overrated. He's not. He was already not really that great of an actor. I think they milked John Wick.
Okay, that's true.
So hard.
That's true.
It was like it was good. The first one was good. Okay, and they should have left it at that.
I was rewatching the first one, and I was like, "This is so fucking good." And it's not because of the sick fucking action scenes. It's the world building. It's genuinely the world building of this like weird undercover society of assassins and shit like that, and how he's the boogeyman. And there's like the coins, like the medallion coin things. He pays to the fucking the midnight cleaners who have the fucking leather jackets. They come in, they spray his house down, and pull the bodies out and tape them up. That's cool. None of that happens ever again.
Yeah, and then in the second movie, they go through this whole like voiceover spiel about how badass John Wick is. Bitch, I already know how badass John Wick. I had a whole movie about how badass John Wick is. Just get to the movie, and I swear that monologue went on forever, and that just killed it.
It just it's now just an action movie. It was already an action movie, but now it's just pure action. They don't really care about the...
It's action for the sake of action.
Yeah. Number 4, I saw the trailer. They got swords and shit. Have you seen the trailer for the latest one? I'll show you. I will show you after this. But yeah, they got swords, and there's Ip Man. Ip Man, the actor, I forgot his name.
Yeah, I don't think they're that great. I thought the first one was pretty decent. I don't know. It's like Hong Kong cinema, but not as good. I think the cinematography, there's too much editing going into it. And I know Donnie Yen can actually fight.
That's his
name. They should actually film him fighting proper, like Hong Kong, in like the old Hong Kong action films. Because they have like wide shots and they just let the actors go through the choreography. But most like Western films and stuff, the actors can't fight, so they got to cut all over the place. They do
the sharp cuts where they hit someone.
Yeah, close up and low lighting and all this shit.
Yeah. It's hard to find that rare combination of someone who actually knows how to fight and act, right?
Yeah.
Which
Well,
is why
they had whole like schools for it in China.
Huh?
It was like Chinese opera or something. It was like a
Jackie Chan school,
it was like a martial arts that was also a performance art.
like choreography type.
Something like that. But they was like it was actual fighting.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's kind of cool actually.
I think
I
so.
might have seen clips of that actually. Stuff like that. I remember seeing like
Yeah.
a choreographed fight where they're actually hitting each other, but it's all. Fuck.
Yeah, I think like you gotta watch some deep cuts. Me and a friend went to the Sydney Film Festival this year, and it was all like unreleased movies that like, or most of them will be released in time. But there was like some international films. There was movies that like are made by like independent studios and stuff like that. And most, I gotta say, pretty much 90% of them, of the movies I watched, I think I watched 13 movies
Sheesh.
over 2 weeks.
God damn.
And most of them were pretty good. They were pretty good. I think one particular one, which I think is out in cinemas now, is called Phantom of the Open, which is this wholesome story about this guy, this middle-aged guy who's been a crane operator all his life, decides he wants to golf. And so he enters the British Open and gets in by mistake.
The fuck? That sounds pretty cool.
It's very sweet. It's a very sweet movie, and I watched this Turkish film called Burning Days about a prosecutor who comes to this small town and he gets wrapped up in this crime. He has like a crazy night out and he gets wrapped up in this crime, and he's trying to like, he has like amnesia, like he can't remember the night, and he's trying to like figure out what happened. It's a really tense film. Yeah, like sometimes you just got to go out of your way and find stuff that's like hidden in the rough, some diamonds in the rough.
Okay.
You never know what you could get.
Yeah. I have a question for you. Now that you're studying film,
Yeah.
do you think you have a greater appreciation of actual movies?
Definitely.
Do you think it's sort of ruined generic, normie movie stuff for you?
I mean, I already could like, was sick of like the generic movie stuff anyway before I started studying film. But it made me really appreciate all the choices and intentionality that goes behind making a film. Like everything is very deliberate, and it's usually to a subconscious effect. So like they have a shot of a person walking. Why are they choosing to show the full body instead of the close-up? You know, why is the lighting like that? Why is the angle like this? It's all been intentional to have a sort of effect, a sort of, sometimes it's symbolic of the narrative, you know, person's walking towards the light, they're walking towards their death or something like that. It can be really interpretive or symbolic like that, or it could be used to emphasize a certain thing, or it could be used to draw attention to a certain thing. Yeah, everything has intention in film, and if it's good, you don't notice it. You just feel it, right?
Right.
You just feel it. And oftentimes, I still struggle to see, like, so everything has an intention behind it, but, like, what is it? Like, I just see this just, like, I don't know what this camera angle is doing. I don't know, like, what this lighting means. I don't know what this shot, like, is trying to do. So, if it's a good movie, I still get lost in the movie and I just watch it, right?
Yeah.
I just watch it and I don't analyze it, right? It's usually when I watch a thing for a second time, like I already know what's happening, so I don't have to pay attention to this. So I can look at other stuff. I do often pick up on more stuff as I'm watching a film for the first time. Just like, oh yeah, you know, I can tell how that's lit, you know, and you wouldn't have noticed that. You're like, you wouldn't think that, like, if you look at like a lighting rig on a particular shot, you have like key lights and you have backlights, but if you do it, you know, perfectly, like you can have a night scene that looks perfectly legit, but it's actually lit to the shit, right? Otherwise it would just be completely black.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's made me appreciate all the elements that go into film, and it's honestly made watching good films even better. Because I know like what goes into it, you know.
I understand why it's good now.
But it also makes watching bad films
Really
worse.
bad?
Worse, yeah. Like I've always been a stickler for dialogue, whether it's games, movies, books. I think even more so in books, like, because it like extends out to like how the writer's voice, like their style of writing. And I can pretty much tell I won't like the style of writing within the first 5 pages. You know, how they describe stuff or how the character talks. And same with dialogue. So dialogue in games, dialogue in movies, like, I don't know. I don't want to say it's like realistic, because realistic dialogue is like it's usually messy and all over the place, right? And it's not there to be analyzed. It's not there to be watched by other people, you know? But when you put it into a movie, obviously everything's deliberate. Everything's written out to be a certain way, right? And you sort of, you know, if it's good dialogue, like I'm engrossed and I'm compelled by the characters, and it brings out their character, and like, you know, it's subtle. I appreciate if a dialogue is like not trying to be overt, right? It's not trying to explain everything to me, or it's not trying to, you know, basically shove a narrative down my throat, right? And it's like, oh, you're late to our wedding that we're going to have later. You know, our wedding, we're supposed to be married. We've been planning this for 3 years, you know? How could you come late to our own wedding? And like, I appreciate when they're, because if you're trying to be subtle, right, and like, it's sort of like, I like sort of picking up clues about the characters and their backstory and like the situation that they're in now, through the dialogue, right? And I think it's like they respect your intelligence to like, hey, you can figure it out.
You can connect these dots without us explicitly telling you.
And it makes
this is what's going on.
It makes rewatching those kind of movies great too, because you might pick up on stuff that you didn't pick up.
You feel respected.
Yeah, the first place.
Yeah, it's like you're not being talked down to, you know.
Yeah, but you know, that's me just being artsy. I prefer like just dumb action movies too, like Top Gun. There's nothing going on.
Top Gun was good.
There's nothing going on in that fucking movie. It's just jets, man. The dialogue is cheesy and corny as fuck, but it's good.
I think it adds to it.
It's not cringe. It's like very campy.
Top Gun was so good.
It was good though.
Oh.
It was good.
Okay. Second part of that question, because you talk a lot about the deliberacy, like a lot of things being deliberate.
Yep.
And I think this gets shit on a lot because everyone goes back to your first English class in high school, right?
Yeah.
Where the teacher says like the curtain's blue, therefore the scene is sad.
Yeah.
And it gets shit on a lot in modern things where like,
why can't the curtains
just fucking blue?
Yeah.
Right. And I think that example is actually a poor example. Like you don't say curtains blue, therefore sad. I think it's a lot more subtle than that, and that a lot of people sort of generalize the whole thing as it just being not deliberate. It's just because it was blue or something like that.
But it was a choice.
There is a lot of thought that goes into this.
It's a choice. They made a choice for it to be blue.
Yeah, because obviously if it was just a curtain, they just called it a curtain.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are pissed off that like that has to mean something, or the teacher's interpretation has to be your interpretation. You know, and they feel like they've been
forced.
Yeah, that's been forced upon them, right? Whereas like, you know, they made a choice for it to be blue, but it's your interpretation of what that is. Like, they're not going to tell you why that's blue.
Melancholy, sadness, whatever. Like, it's just, I think there's always a deeper meaning. But also, I think there are times where the author just says something and there's no deeper meaning behind it.
There's that too. And oftentimes, there's been interviews, like, I think there was one interview with David Lynch where an interviewer asked him, like, oh, okay, you had this particular scene here. What did that mean? And he said, I'm not going to tell you that. Yeah, just, you know. He was like, was there any meaning behind that? And he was like, yeah, there was, but I'm not going to tell you that. You know,
that's good. I think that's good. You leave it up to interpretation.
Yeah.
It's like, if we talk about like bad shots or weird shots in cinema, could you just say that's not deliberate at all and it was just a mistake, or like they weren't thinking about that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it can fall down to that
into that
as
category.
Well. Yeah. I mean, a choice was being made, right? You can make good choices and bad choices.
That's true.
They, you know, and yeah, maybe they weren't thinking, they weren't experienced enough to know that.
It shouldn't be.
Like there's a lot of like weird stuff about, like, there's like this concept of a line in a scene.
Yeah.
And a camera is supposed to be like behind this line, right?
Okay.
And if you cross this line, you have a camera that's on like up crossing the line, and it's sort of like
Takes away.
it like breaks something, right? Like you sort of break the cohesion of the scene
Yeah.
by having it from this weird
Yeah.
angle, right? There's a lot of weird stuff like that, or like establishing distance. So like there's two people standing on either end of a road. You have a close up of one person, a close up of the next person, and then you have a close up of them, both of them in the same scene, and the road between them. And so you just establish how far apart they are, and you sort of like you're establishing relationships through your edits and your cinematography. It's all very like subtle stuff
that
goes
you
in.
wouldn't pick up unless you
Yeah.
learn about it.
Yeah, it's film is interesting and tricky and hard.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's not always good. Bad films, come down to bad decision or a bad execution of a good idea, or they're just shit.
Yeah. Sometimes people are just shit.
Yeah.
And there's no deeper meaning behind it.
Yeah. And I don't mean to say that because everything's intentional, it has to have this super deep meaning that like the more we pry it open, it explores the human condition, all this bullshit. It's just a choice was being made, and it can be up to you to figure out why that's made. And if you figure that out, or if you come to a conclusion, it might deepen your understanding of the film, and therefore you might like it more because of that.
Yeah. I think I'm very similar to you in that when we read books, you can pretty much tell like how the author writes whether you're going to enjoy the rest of this book or not, right? For me, I really like the sort of verbose, sort of somewhat complicated like vocabulary.
You sort of like a flowery prose.
I really like flowery prose. Like
that's like very unpopular. It's a very popular to say you don't like it.
You don't like it. It's like Nabokov. He did Lolita, which is a very controversial book, obviously, but the way he fucking writes is fucking magical, man. There's a lot of words in there, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? That's cool. Oh god, I live for that shit. I love the super verbose stuff, and when it's too simple, it just seems stupid. And my monkey brain's like, that's below my level. I don't want to read this, and even though I know it's probably pretty good, but yeah, I guess everyone operates in different ways.
I do like sort of like a flowery if it's executed well. I think a lot of people refer to flowery language as like author is just doing that to flex on like how well they can write, how many words they know.
Yeah.
I also like really simple, cut and dry prose as well. Like, obviously, it can be too simple where it's like, it's just way too simple. Yeah, it's way too boring and simplistic, and there's no edge to it. But there is like, I have read books where like the prose is very cut and dry, and like, it helps. It helps like emphasize other things because it's cutting out the fat of other stuff. Oh god, that reminds me of this book I read for a book club that I was a part of. It's called Red Sister. It's a popular book. It's a popular fantasy book, and I knew I wasn't gonna like this book in the first chapter by the way this guy writes.
Yeah.
And I forced myself to read this the whole way through so I had something to contribute to the meeting
discussion
that came up. Oh god, it just got worse and worse. Like the other guys were saying like, it's a first book in a trilogy, and this one girl was like, oh, I read, I just loved it so much I read all 3 books, and like, I struggled to read this one book, and you read all 3 of them before the meeting. I was like, Jesus Christ,
you crazy motherfucker.
And it's how can you stomach this putrid vomit?
It shows just how crazily different people's tastes are compared to yours. And I will still hate on people who have different tastes than me. I'm not gonna lie. They got trash taste. That's it. They're bad taste. Bad taste. That's all. Anytime someone has a different opinion than me, your opinion's bad. You have bad taste. It is obviously people have different opinions.
Do you find yourself easily influenced by other people's opinions of stuff?
Okay. So I'm the opposite of you, where I don't pick up a book, any random book, and just read it. I like doing my research on books because I'm very over analytical in that. I don't want to waste my time reading something that ends up being shit. And so every time I see a book, it's always in like top 10 list of fantasy books you need to read. I'm always like that. And so when it comes to the very rare occasion where I watch something that I haven't even bothered looking up or seen any reviews for. And then I look up afterwards. My overall opinion is always so different from the mainstream opinion, and I am so easily swayed. Like if I hate something, I'll go to the reviews and it's got like 9.5 out of 10. I'm like, why? And then I read like why. I read the reviews. I'm like, oh, okay, maybe it was kind of good. Maybe it was kind of good. Like they got a point. And then when I read something that's good, and then the review says it's bad, I was like, oh, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was. You know, I get so easily swayed by like some other person's opinion of the same thing, unless it's something that I'm like in love with. Yeah. And I will fucking fight to the death. You just like everyone else is wrong. This is a good book. It's good. Oh. Yeah,
I also have a hard time standing up for my own opinions.
Exactly.
I'm very pliable in that my opinion is easily swayed. Oftentimes, like, even if I'm just like talking to like you or Matt and like you, like, I'm like, I really like this. Like, we both watched something. I'm like, oh, I thought that was really good, and you're like, that's hot garbage. I'm like,
wait,
maybe. Yeah, it is gone.
Why does he think it's bad? Maybe he's got a point. I like that too.
I have been like trying to be more accepting that people have different opinions from me, and that doesn't invalidate my own opinion of what it is, right? I do try to avoid it because sometimes it's just like it's like an inception, right? You just get just the idea in your head, and even if you like try to reject it, like I like this thing. And then you just like when you rewatch it and you think about like that bad review and you're like, oh yeah,
that's kind of right. I do see what they were saying.
That's not that good. That's not that good.
Yeah.
Fuck.
It's I think we're both. I think we're wired that way to sort of. We're so used to trying to stay within everyone like the mainstream opinion that will change our own to match theirs. Yeah. It's just the way we are.
Like there's a need to belong.
Yeah.
Even though there's like no one else in the room.
It doesn't actually matter that much.
Yeah.
It's I don't know, maybe it's just the way we're raised or whatever. Or something like that.
That's happened like the opposite way too though. Like I've been watching Evangelion, the anime, and I was like, oh god, that was rough. Yeah. Like not that I thought it was bad, but it was just like I don't know, I couldn't find any enjoyment out of that.
Yeah.
And then I like would watch like video essays and they like analyze the plot and I'm like, oh god, wait a second, this is good.
It's a metaphor for Christians.
It wasn't reviews. It was like I read stuff that deepened my understanding behind the anime, and then now I love it. Now I think it's great, and I buy.
It's not always a bad thing though. Yeah, right.
But I think that's slightly different because I'm like learning more about the anime rather than like
someone just
reading reviews. But like reading reviews is like for me, it's like I love this thing so much, or I hate this thing so much.
I want people to agree with me.
Like if I love something so much, I like want to find more about it. Like I want to find something else that like it never happens. I never get satisfied by whatever else I find, right? Other than like a sequel or something, right? Like I just need to feel this high I'm on from this film or this book. Or if I hate something so much, I'm like, I need someone to agree with me that this is trash. This is trash. Sometimes it's if I really hate something, I'm not easily swayed.
Yeah.
I won't get into it because I got into it, but like the newest Halo, I think is trash. Like the story is trash. The story is trash, but everyone loves it.
Okay.
Everyone loves it.
I understand. It's okay. Jesus, calm down. But yeah, I think maybe we just need sometimes we need the opinion to be validated by someone else to know we're right.
Yeah.
We just don't have enough self-confidence to be like, I'm fucking right. I know I'm right.
Yeah. Like if you're sort of like, oh, I like this, but you're not like to the extreme, like I love this, then like you can get knocked back.
Yeah.
And
it's very easy to be like,
I hate this.
Okay, this happened today, right? So can you tell me how you pronounce these words?
Deus ex machina.
How do you pronounce the first word?
Deus.
Deus?
Yeah.
Okay. So I went to a place today. I went to a cafe called Deus ex machina, right?
Yeah.
And one of my friends, before we were going there, he's like, yeah, we're going to Juice. I'm like, what?
Juice.
We're going to Juice. I'm like, okay. And so we go there and it says Deus ex machina.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, okay. And so we go there, we order our coffee and I'm talking to him. I'm like, it's Deus. He's like, no, it's Juice. I'm like, no, it's Deus. And I was so fucking confident in this opinion, right? Because every time I talk to maybe you or like someone else in D&D, it's Deus. Deus Ex Machina. That's how it is. It's on the internet. It's Deus Ex Machina. I'm like, I know it's Deus Ex Machina. I know this is right. And then he's like, no, it's Juice. And I'm like, no.
Did you look it up or?
So at the time I was like, no, it's Deus. And he's like, no, it's Juice. I'm like, oh. And he was very put down on this as well.
Very adamant, yeah.
And then his one of our friends comes along and she's like, oh, it's Juice. I'm like, huh? Wait, now there's two people saying it. And now it's just me. It's me by myself defending this opinion. And I was suddenly like, I was suddenly so swayed, like, maybe I'm wrong. Like, all that confidence just goes out the window as soon as you're in the minority for something.
Yeah.
You're just like, fuck, well, if everyone else says I'm wrong, maybe I'm wrong. And I was getting gaslit into thinking I was fucking wrong. So I Googled it. And it said Deus. I'm like, God, I'm right, you fucks. Oh my God, I've never been so scared to be wrong in my life. Because it's crazy when you're so confident about something and then majority of people start to disagree with you.
Your pride gets shattered and your morale just drops.
Yeah, it's so easy how that like weird community majority minority thing sways people. It's so
interesting. It's interesting. At least you're aware of it, and if you want to do something about it, it's easier to do because you can see it. But yeah, even I'm trying to do something about it. Like I'm entitled to my own opinion. I don't have to be aligned with everyone else. Yeah. But it's hard too. Like it's just like, oh, but now I'm agreeing with them. No, I don't want to agree. I
had my opinion before, but
it's
now
my opinion. Yeah.
They proved me wrong. It's fucking Deus. Anyway, yeah.
Deus.
I say Deus, with not the U. I say Deus.
Deus Ex Machina.
Yeah. Yeah, cafe. There it is.
Cafe, Parramatta Road.
Oh no, actually is it the same one? No, whatever. Anyway, stuff like that. Is it time? Should we call it? It's getting pretty late.
Yep. All right.
Hey.
Far Kingdoms. It's back.
Yeah, the D&D podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's like you ever listen to Trash Taste? It's an anime podcast,
used to be an anime
but they talk about other shit.
They never talk about anime.
I like this. It feels.
It's chill.
It's low pressure.
Yeah.
It's free.
It's free. It's definitely freeing. But will anyone listen to us talk about nothing that relates to them anymore?
Well, you know what? I'm so far gone from that. I don't care. I'm happy to have just a nice conversation.
It's nice because we get to talk that much anymore anyway.
Yeah.
So it's nice to catch up as well.
Busy.
So very, very busy. And I hope to get to catch up with you listeners back on Far Kingdoms episode.
I don't know what episode. I think it's episode 6.
Huh? Oh, season 2, right.
Season 2, episode 6.
I want to say episode 4.
No, it's not
really?
4. I think we've done 4. It's either 5 or 6.
I want to say it's episode 4. I guess we'll find out right fucking now because I'm just gonna check.
Okay.
Episode. I'm clicking. Things are happening. Switch account. Oh, Far Kingdoms. 17 subscribers. Not bad. Your channel.
There you go.
Oh,
it's 5. Yeah, I remember we did about 4.
Anyway, episode 5.
Episode 5.
We're back.
We're back, baby.
Yeah.
We'll see you later.